Hey everyone. I thought I would address a few things and give you a quick from A to B on my journey. It's a long story and I'm going to leave out a ton. I'm just going to give you a quick timeline and crucial details of the events. There's many, and I am going to leave out a lot and probably forget some at the moment. But September 2020 is when I left Vancouver towards the Great Lakes and then Ottawa. And on the way, I was stopping because in Vancouver, I noticed a substance spreading on the leaves. And it started with the birds. The birds were showing major symptoms, literally everywhere. Hard to say, but they were falling apart. From there, I started to look into the trees, bushes, water sources to see why the birds were looking so infected. I came across the beach. The beach was covered, September 2020. The beach was covered in Vancouver of a green substance. There was reports of a vessel, an unknown vessel, anchored outside of Vancouver. Don't know if it has anything to do with it. But the birds were eating from the beach, and they were all looking sick. So I assumed at the beginning it was that. I don't think it's that anymore. As I traveled further and further in BC, the same symptoms. White substance spreading on the vegetation, birds looking infected, itching, losing feathers, looking mangy, etc. I went to water sources. I saw weird things in the water. As soon as I looked in the environment for anything strange, I saw it right away. I thought it was starting in Vancouver and moving out because I was already in Alberta before Vancouver and I didn't notice anything. So when I was in Vancouver and I started to notice the stuff spreading, I thought it was starting in Vancouver and I was heading towards Ottawa because it was so bad, and I was trying to get a hold of wildlife services, City Hall, anyone, even random owl rescue, just random places trying to talk to people. After a little while of people just calling me crazy, some people were taking me serious. But as soon as someone was taking me serious on the phone, I was getting some sort of an AI. So on my journey, I think I was drawing a lot of attention. I don't know how or what, but anytime I would call someone, I would get through once. After that, it was like an AI, I could tell it was an AI. It just had that little bit of hint of AI sound in it. I know I'm jumping all over the place here. I'm sorry. I'm bad with storytelling. I'm just going off of memory, and there's a lot to go off of. September 2020, it started. I headed towards the Great Lakes, but I was stopping along the way, and I had to stop in Alberta to renew my registration at the time. So I went to go see my son. I alerted the RCMP in Red Deer of the substance spreading. They called me crazy, and I hung up. I was gathering information because I was also seeing the symptoms in Alberta that I saw in Vancouver. And my plan was to keep going to the Great Lakes because that is a migration area for birds and a lot of vegetation. I thought it would be a key area to take a look at before hitting Ottawa. And this was before the Freedom Convoy and all of that. This was just after COVID was declared, the first summer of COVID. Just after September. So as I was reaching Medicine Hat Hospital, and I'm leaving out a lot because I was all over the place taking videos and pictures and messaging people and talking to people at gas stations, anywhere along the way. I reached Medicine Hat with a symptom because my plan was, if I develop a symptom, because I didn't know what I was coming in contact with in the environment. I didn't know what I was exposing myself to. It was an unknown substance infecting birds. The birds looked very sick. The vegetation was wilting and dying, and a white substance spreading on everything. So I thought, I'm just going to keep going until I develop a symptom, and I'll go to the nearest hospital, preferably a small town, because you would get better treatment, you would think. I showed up to the hospital on my own with devices in my hand, and I was trying to upload the videos in the waiting room before I saw a doctor, just in case. I wanted to get the information out there, for good reason too, and I'll explain that. As soon as I went into the front doors, I thought it was emergency, and I was like, oh, I think I've come in contact with something. I should probably see a doctor and maybe even be, you know, put in somewhere away from people, because I don't know what the symptoms were. And she understood. She was a nice nurse. Oh, and I had asked for the police at the same time, just because I wanted to give my devices over to the police before I went into the doctor, just in case anything happened. It was the peace officers. I guess they were the hospital police, the peace officers there. I thought they were random police that showed up, but it wasn't. It was part of the hospital's cabal, I would say, even though I respect them and I don't think they meant any harm, because there was some good ones there. So, peace officers, no hard feelings. But Dr. Nawali, I'm not going to go on another rant about this guy. I'm just going to let you know, he doesn't ask any information. He rushes you because he's only got 15 minutes, so he's got to see another patient. So I told him 3 weeks of information at that point, or maybe it was several, I can't remember. It's a long time ago. 3 weeks of information in 15 minutes. He was believing me. He actually said, whoa, like, because everything I was saying was adding up. Like, it was all from recollection. I would keep my, like, if he'd re-ask me something, it would be the same thing. You know, you could tell when someone's being deceptive and or high. He asked me if I, like, a question. I'm like, oh, well, like, I've just gotten a little bit of sleep while I've been driving. So he thought the police brought me there because I had asked for the police, I think, because after we were done talking, he sent the police in to remove all of my things, my phone, my keys, my wallet, and he wanted me to take a pill. And I don't take pills, and I started to get worried because the nurse came in after he asked me to take a pill, and I said, no, does anyone know you're here? And on my ID says donor, like heart donor, organ donor, if anything happens to me. And when I showed my ID to her, she, like, before going into the room, they got all wide-eyed and look at each other. That kind of put a red flag in my head. So when I went into that room and I took everything, I was starting to get a little nervous, to be honest, because this could be it. No one knows I'm here. They have all my stuff, and I'm locked in a room with an environmental emergency that is probably classified. So I thought it was it. I thought I was done. So my only thing was to stay calm and cool and not give any sign of panic or being worried. Just calm, cool, and collected like a jet pilot. So I did. I stood up like I needed to use the washroom or something. Just knocked on the door nicely. She opened it. The guard, peace officer, female, part way, most of the way, like you could walk out if you wanted, but I stood there and I asked, am I under arrest? She said no. So then I proceeded to walk outside for a cigarette. But she goes, oh, no. The doctors still have to do tests. But yet I'm locked in a room. They took all my stuff and they want to give me a pill. Tests? It's just some things weren't adding up. So I wanted to make sure I made it into the waiting room to let people know, hey, because I had already made a statement in the waiting room saying, hey, there's something going on in Vancouver. Here's my YouTube, before they took me in, just in case. That way other people knew. I'm smart. Like, I'm not going down like that. So yeah, I made it into the waiting room and said, hey, they're trying to get me, because they were. And if I didn't make it into that waiting room, and they were pissed that I did, if I didn't make it into that waiting room, I don't think I'd be here right now. And that's, you could say paranoid, but you would have had to have been there to feel the dread that I felt in that room. And I am leaving out a lot of their details. Nothing I did. I would obviously stay calm, cool, and collected. I got ambushed. So I made it into that waiting room, and it's like they came from every corner of the frickin' place, the peace officers, and like ambushed me and tried to slam me, but I went to my knee and I stopped, and it was the only time I had ever resisted. And I was like, fuck this, I'm not going down like that. And then I'm like, just let me go on my own, I'll take the pill or whatever. And they let me go on my own, and I took the pill, but it wasn't a pill, it was a tranquilizer. And I just remember asking for a priest or maybe someone to talk to. They're like, no priest. And they just all stood around me like they were in a cult or something, just looking at me while I'm just this helpless guy, man, who's been through a lot at that point, and just treat me like dirt, just staring at me like they're just like some sort of a cult. No priest. And it's just like, have some humanity. But nope, not these people at Medicine Hat Hospital. I wouldn't say I went to the absolute worst place to go to. I would say I would choose some ghetto hospital before I went there. There's nothing wrong with the ghetto, but I would go to the greasiest hospital before I went to Medicine Hat Hospital. I'll just say that, because at least I'm probably not going to deal with some Satanists. I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but the nurses and some of the peace officers, they did have weird Masonic tattoos. And Medicine Hat Hospital, their address is 666 Medicine Hat Regional Hospital, Alberta. If you want to look it up, ask for 5 North, Dr. Nawali. Anyway, that's a long story. I was in there with Dr. Nawali, literally mind games, trying to discredit me, trying to make me second guess myself. Anytime I would say anything that wasn't his narrative, he would say, I'm ordering an injection. First, it would be like, so you're from BC? Yes. And you work in BC? Well, I was in Alberta and I just recently moved back to BC. I'm ordering an injection. Like, literally like that. I would answer a question, basic, standard, calibrating questions, I guess you would call it. I forget what you call that word. Anyway, just basic baseline questions to gather someone's, if they're being deceptive or not, or, basic questions that a psychiatrist would ask. And I would answer truthfully, and honestly. But it would be just basic questions. Nothing about what I was talking about the environment. And he's saying he's ordering an injection. I'm like, well, I have the right to refuse medication. And he said, we will have to force it to you. And they did. They force medicated me. I'm leaving out a lot because I missed out the part where I had asked for a Bible and was walking around the unit because there's nothing else to do. And that's when they tranquilized me again, because it's my right to have a Bible. And there wasn't one in the whole building because there were student nurses that came in. Not one Bible in that whole building. Eventually, after a few days and days, actually, of new people coming in, and every time I see a new person, I'm trying to get them to get a Bible. And it creates noise about my emergency, because I would also tell them my YouTube channel. I sent some SOSs out to the student nurses anytime I was able to get into contact with someone new or the phone. I even called the police. 911. I'm like, I'm abducted, because I was. Anyway, long story short, Dr. Nawali was trying so hard to get me so medicated that I was a vegetable in the bed that it worked. I thought I was done because he finally had me as a vegetable in the bed. I was feeling sick and defeated, actually. Like, I couldn't take another moment in there, but I was too weak to do anything. So it was like a torture in a way, because not only am I in constant awareness and pain and mentally because of them, in that I can't do anything, it was not knowing that I was ever getting out. That was also, plus not being able to move. Like, I used to eat all my meals. Now I'm eating half of it, and only once a day. And he didn't adjust it, because the first pills were making my legs go numb, like paralyzed, to be honest. I woke up in the morning and my legs were paralyzed, and I started crying, to be honest, because I thought, what the fuck are they doing to me? Long story short, one of the other doctors that had randomly came in, and they were trying to hush me. I was like, "Doctor, my name's Glenn Smallwood, and I shouldn't be here. My YouTube channel is Glenn Smallwood." At the time it was. "Can you look into it and see what you can do?" And he said, "Yeah." And I believed him. Like, he was saying yeah, but didn't make eye contact, just like an acknowledgement, like, I'm not supposed to acknowledge you, but I am, kind of thing. And he was the one that was sitting in the room the day I got out. And Dr. Nawali was mad that I was getting out. It was not in his plan whatsoever. Dr. Michael Nawali. He doesn't speak English very well. I don't know what he's doing as a doctor. He doesn't assess people. He doesn't take in information. He builds a narrative on you before he even meets you, and forces you to fit that narrative. Whatever he built up about you in his paperwork, somehow with medication, he makes you fit that. Because in his paperwork, he called me a rambling, delusional, schizophrenic, and then some other things, pretty much saying I couldn't care for myself. Reasons why you would have to force medicate someone. But everyone in the unit saw that I was just fine. Not only that, I was like a manager in a way. I was, in the unit, like, trying to socialize with people, keep everyone entertained. I'd order pizza, things like that, just being normal and trying to get out the SOS. This is getting a little long, I'm sorry. That's just the first part. I got out, and I had to go back to Vancouver to save money again for work. I was gonna continue on, but I knew I didn't have enough funds to do that. So I had to go back to work and then carry on. And that's what I did. Only this time, when I left across Canada to the Great Lakes to finish my original mission, and then Ottawa, it was a year or two into, it was 2 years into the emergency now. So I was doing a lot of investigating where I was in Vancouver while I was working. But when I saved up enough to take off, it was worse as I traveled east. So from Vancouver to Ottawa, just kept getting worse and worse with the environmental emergency. And there's a compounding issue. Some sort of a network of people along the Trans-Canada Highway at gas stations, I would call handlers. Because every gas station I'd get to, there'd be someone posted out, like, keeping 6. And then there would be someone that looks like a regular customer in the store, but they're not, because they would question me. And, the first time, didn't think anything of it. Second time, didn't think anything of it. But when it happens 3, 4, 5 times every time you get gas, I'm starting to be aware that something's going on. Like, so I would start pump paying. Actually, I was using cash at this point. It was on the way back I had to use the card. and I wouldn't go in. But on the way back, jeez, I haven't even got there yet. So I hit, let's say I'll leave out a lot, and I hit where the main event happened. The battle, I'll call it. The Flying J in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. The Flying J, the only one by Home Depot, had a handler in the back. But at this point, I didn't think he was a handler. I just thought it was another random person parked in the back, because I was going to crash there for the night. But I had a shower, ate some food inside the store, and things seemed weird. The clerk had a cut on his hand, like a long cut on his hand, but it looked like it was like a week old. It was healed up a bit, but still fresh a little bit. But I went outside to the back car after I was done eating and showering. I rolled one up. I looked to the sky. I saw a flash. So I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll go take a look out in the woods. Like a shooting star, but it wasn't a shooting star. It was just one. So I'm like, oh, maybe that's a sign. I'm going to go take a look in the woods. And I don't know what was out there, but I'm going to leave that classified. I'll just say this. It could have been a technology, speakers and lighting system. Coming back from the bush, I'm going to leave it classified because it's just way out there. I'm not even going to talk about it. Stick to what is tangible or what I can prove. The guy in the car was now, because he heard me out in the bush and heard the commotion, he was now taunting me. So I was just trying to go to sleep, took my shoes off, going to bed. He was still taunting me because he heard, I guess I said a prayer or something. He heard that. That was in the end. Like, I said a prayer. He heard that. He was like, because I opened the door, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what's your problem, bud? Like, I'm just out there, you know? Like, what's the problem? I said something about, I'm like, man, like, anyway, I said something, and he's like, I am a fucking demon, and I'm gonna kill you, and I'm gonna run through you. Anyway, at the moment, I interpreted it as he was gonna run me over. Because I had said something about, I was saying a prayer and making sure there's no, like, demon or something like that. Because I, honestly, to be honest, I'll tell you, I saw and heard something out there that I thought was. Anyway, this motherfucker started raging, saying he was a demon. And I didn't believe him. Like, anyone can say that shit. I don't give a fuck. But after seeing what I saw, you said it to the wrong guy, dude. Because not only are you just threatening me and I just witnessed something out there, but now I feel like I gotta get you. Because if I'm going down, I'm making sure I'm going down fighting. So when he said he was gonna kill me and run through me, and I tried de-escalating, saying just calm down, it only intensified him. So that's when I went forward. He slammed the door like a little coward. So I punched with the rings on my finger the back passenger window out. Not his window, the passenger. Because if he's going to run me over, I'm coming in. And that's what he tried to do. He sped forward, turned around, and I took off my sweater. And I was barefoot. So I was in the vehicle ready to go to sleep. So that'll explain something in a second. I was barefoot, so as he's driving around and he's coming back and he's coming towards me, now I wouldn't say fast. I faked right and he was getting closer. I faked left and he was getting closer. And just as he was at me, I went up, straight up, jumped, and landed on the windshield. And as we're moving, I'm on the windshield. And I start making my way into the window that I broke open with my fist. And I sat on the ledge. As he was driving, he was speeding up and he was trying to claw at me with his left hand. He was driving, and with his left hand he was trying to claw at me. So I grabbed his hand with two hands, I'm pretty sure, and held onto it tight because I was going to make my way in there. And trust me, this was like Never been this far in a fight before, but this is the first time in my head I was thinking something, and it wasn't good for him. But I didn't, no weapons or anything. Maybe a submission, but it wasn't gonna be good. He was cutting his arm up on the window that I punched out while I was holding it, because he was trying to like jerk it, but I had it up against the window. Like, I didn't know that he was cutting himself. That wasn't my intention. It was just to brace his arm, because he was speeding up and I didn't know if we were going to have an impact. So I was just bracing his arm up against the window in case we were going to crash. I was going to try to slip into the vehicle. Actually, I was going to slip into the vehicle, but at that point, I guess he was cutting his arm. He slammed on the brakes and put it into park, and he was trying to get out, but I wasn't let go of his arm, so he was like tugging on it. So when I was ready, I let go. As he was just about to tug again, I let go, so he would stumble backwards. And he did. He stumbled backwards onto his ass, screaming like a little bitch. So I got out, and he was the one raging like he's some big ass demon, and now he's squealing like a little bitch. Anyway, I just walk, because everything I did was just casually. Nothing fast, nothing aggressive. Just like it was just a walk in the park. And anything he threw at me was just a little toss. Even him coming at me with the car, just a little toss. I did nothing, and yet did everything. It's hard to explain. I didn't hurt him, yet he's cut. He walked into the store. Or actually, kind of ran. I walked in behind him. Opened the door. He was yelling, "I'm crazy, I'm bleeding," because my hand was all cut up from punching the window. So I wiped a cross on my chest. And good luck. And plus I didn't want to bleed all over the floor. But just in good luck, I wrote a blood cross on my chest in my own hand. Because, this guy said he's a demon. And I'm willing to go down to take this demon out. And he ran into the back. The store clerks acted like they knew him, which is weird. He went into the back and knew exactly where the knives were. So I followed him into the back. And he came back and he turned around, and I just walked past him. I thought I saw something black in his hand. He had it like turned. I couldn't see. I walked right past him, and quickly actually, because like I'm fast. Like I'll stop and then move, but I'll be too quick. Like I'm unpredictable. But fast or slow, because I lulled him with my slow speed, and then when I moved fast, it seemed unbelievably fast. But I was already at a knife, and he dropped his knife, and it turned out to be a spatula, and ran like a coward. So I walked after him, walked to the front door, saw he was jumping in his car and leaving. So I turned around and I handed the knife to the clerk, the handle part, and said, "Call the police." The clerk said, "Oh no, that guy's good, he left." I thought that was strange. That guy's good? He left? Did you not just hear that scene that happened in your parking lot? But he's good and left, so it's okay. He must have been a handler, I swear, because the other guys that were with him, that seemed like they were gonna back him up but didn't after they saw the crazy guy land on the vehicle. Those guys didn't want anything to do with it after that. I went out to my vehicle to suit up. I had an electric skateboard, a helmet, some construction heavy duty like sweater and pants. So I was throwing those on in case Buddy came back. But my keys were locked in the vehicle, so I had to break my own window because he was coming back. But I didn't see it physically. I just had a feeling he was going to come back. And just in case, right? Like I'm not getting caught slipping. So I busted out the window, suited up, and what do you know? As I'm going on the skate towards the front to wait for the police, he showed back up. And this time we're playing chicken. And I was fearless because I had already landed on his vehicle and showed him what's up. I wasn't fucking turning. I was gonna round two, motherfucker. I went straight at him with the skateboard and he came straight at me with the car, but he turned way before we even made it close to each other. Like, I would say 20 feet. I thought we were gonna come like, I thought if he was gonna turn, it was gonna be like last second, because I was gonna jump up off the skate and land on the window again, and go through, and this time finish the job. To be honest, but he turned, so I turned. It's all on camera, so you guys can get this footage. Call Flying J, Sault Ste. Marie. It's all on footage. I'm gonna leave it there. Maybe part 2. I'll continue it. It's already a half hour. Sorry.